But you all can go ahead and log into Canvas and start your warm-ups. So we're on day 4, Unit 0, day 4. Thank you for turning your camera on. Thank you, Jalen. Thanks, Castro. Thank you, Omari.
We were on day 4, right?
Yes, day 4. Hopefully we get some more people joining us. We got a lot of people not here today. At least not here so far. Ayana, thank you for joining. I don't have you on my roster anymore, Ayana. Do you know if your schedule changed?
I don't know. Let me check Power School.
Okay.
If this logs in for you, brother, just let him know.
Angel, how are you doing today? All good?
Yeah, I'm doing pretty good. How about you?
I'm doing well. Thank you. Kiki, you good? Everything's all good?
Yes.
Good, excellent. Castro, how are you?
Good.
Excuse me?
Yes.
I don't even have science anymore. It's not on my Power School at all.
Okay.
Yeah, it's off.
What class are you? What is your second block class now?
Visual arts. Wait, hold on.
Business agenda?
Hold on. I think so. I'm not sure if that's for second semester or first though.
Okay. I will send. I'll send an email to your counselor right now.
What did you say?
So I will send an email to your counselor right now.
Okay.
This post to
you? Okay, go to your room and do your class.
So for those of us who are just joining, thanks for being here. I'm definitely excited for today's class, but you all should be working on your warm-up. We have a little under 3 minutes left, so you should be in Canvas. It's a very short and easy warm-up. Just asking a little bit about the scientific method, which we talked about yesterday.
Mr. Rudd, it won't let me submit.
Ooh, what is it saying?
Nothing. It just doesn't let me submit.
As in it's still loading or what?
Yeah, it's been loading for like a minute now.
Okay.
You want me
can
to
you-
like refresh it and I gotta do it
Yeah,
over again? What's up?
Yes, just try to refresh the page, see if that makes a difference.
I bet.
I need to finish this sending this email. So you all take about 90 more seconds.
Mr. Rude,
Mr. Rudd, yes.
sorry, I'm so sorry.
No
The
problem.
only people that could change your schedule is counselors, right?
Yes, ma'am.
I guess my counselor changed my schedule. I haven't even talked to her yet, though.
It could be that she is just going to have you take biology second semester, but I did just send her an email and I copied you on that email. So you should hopefully hear from her in the next couple of hours.
So, two of my classes got changed. Your class and world history. So
Let me talk to teacher. Is the microphone on?
yeah, the microphone.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
Hi, how are you?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm all right. Ayana didn't have any reason for her schedule to be changed, and she's been doing work thus far for her current schedule. All of a sudden, we see a whole different schedule in here. Is there someone to talk to figure out why she was changed or what's going on? I'm actually about to go out and do something for my other child right now, but I don't understand what just happened.
Yes. So as Ayana just said, the only people who can change schedules are our counselors. And I just sent an email to her counselor, so we'll have to wait back and wait and see what she says. But I can forward that email to you.
Yes, sir. I would appreciate that.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Y'all have a great day.
You
I
too.
need to find your dad's phone.
Mr. Rudd,
Yes.
about the test. So like, it said I marked some questions that I didn't mark. Like the last one I put, like I actually like got it wrong. The last one I got wrong, but like the third one and the first one, I put the right answers, but it didn't let me do it. Like it said I still got them wrong because like it said that I marked something else.
Okay. Well, don't worry about it too much now. We'll just go ahead and get into the lesson.
I bet.
Same for me. Okay, that's good to know. Well, I'll try to see if I can play with the settings later, but let's go ahead and start right now. So just as a reminder, I do need you all to join our Remind chat. This is going to be an easy way for me to contact you all, as often as I need to. I promise I will not be blowing up your phones. This is likely going to be about a, weekly, maybe twice a week type of messaging system. So just make sure that you go into Remind. This is our code. I'll leave this on the screen for about 10 more seconds so that you all can take screenshots, write it down, take a picture. If you're unfamiliar with what Remind is, it's just an app, but you can also use it on your laptop that will allow you to connect with your teacher. And that way I can send out messages to the entire class, and then you all can respond directly to me, and then I can respond directly to you. So this is just going to be a good communication tool for us.
So should I just leave? I guess.
You can stay for now, but who is the teacher for visual arts?
What'd you say?
Who is your teacher for visual arts?
Gander.
Do you have access to his Canvas class?
Nope. There's
Okay,
no campus for him.
So yeah, you might as well just stay here for now, and then hopefully, like I said, Ms. Broadway will respond as soon as possible. We can get an answer.
Okay.
Thank you for asking for clarification, though. So let's move. Let's keep going. Will someone like to volunteer to read the objective for the day, please?
Describe and exemplify the characteristics of life.
Excellent. So today, we're going to start to transition into our actual biology content. And today's lesson is short, It's brief, but it's extremely, extremely important. And it's something that we're going to continue to go back to as a foundation for the entire course. And we're talking about the characteristics of life. And there's a useful acronym that you'll hear us use throughout the school year. So thanks for reading that, Angel. Can someone else please read the essential question?
How can we relate at least two of the, what is that?
STERNGRR.
STERNGRR life processes to our human bodies.
Excellent. Thank you, Jalen. So STERNGRR is that acronym that I was talking about. It's a little bit awkward. It's not a word that you would ever really see anywhere else, but we're going to talk about specifically what STERNGRR is today. And each of those letters stands for a different life process. So I want to provide this checkpoint, and I'm going to do this periodically throughout our time of virtual learning, just to keep you all on task. So here's what I would really like for you all to have done by tomorrow. I know it may seem like a lot, and we do have a couple more short assignments today, but hopefully you've been doing a little bit each day, and you'll be on track to finish tomorrow. Definitely the first two, well, really the first assignment is extremely important, making sure that you created your own Google Drive and then share that drive with me. Most of you have done it already, and that's essentially going to be where you submit your assignments throughout the year. So if you haven't done that yet, that's the one I really want to emphasize that you go ahead and take care of today. And then the third and fourth assignments are also pretty important. The virtual locker really is just to help me get to know who you are and get a chance to see what some of your personal characteristics are. But the third and fourth assignments are also worth a little bit more points, so you should take care of those as well. And then the student champion contact form is something for your family to do. That's not for you to do. I need a parent or a guardian or somebody else in your life to fill that out. Any questions about this, or has anybody experienced any issues with these? You can type it in the chat, or you can, I see Kiki shaking her head. Definitely one of the benefits of having your camera on is I can see you shake and nod your head. Okay, let's see, I've got a chat. Okay. All right. So another quick reminder, we do want to continue to emphasize note-taking. So especially today, again, today's lesson is brief, it's short, but it's going to be foundational for the rest of the course. So you definitely want to make sure you're taking some strong notes today. What I did is, if you go into Canvas, you'll see that there is a new page available all the way at the bottom of our Unit 0 module. And it's under Unit 0 resources. And it's called Note-Taking Templates. There are both English and Spanish versions. And essentially what you can do, and I'll just give you an example. So you open up the page. Each of those 4 different types of note-taking that we discussed a couple of days ago, I created a Google Doc template for. All right, so let's just say you want to take Cornell notes. You can open up this template, and the page is set up so that you can just type your Cornell notes right into this document. And then there's a box for your summary, there's a box for your questions, and a box for your notes, right? So there's one for each type of method. So if you want to do the charting method, there's one for that as well. Not that. Okay, so whichever method feels right for you, and you don't have to use these templates. This is just an easy way for you all to share your notes with me and take your notes virtually on a laptop. But if you prefer to use pen and paper, that's awesome. Or if you prefer to use your own style, that works as well, as long as you are doing something to take effective and efficient notes. Okay. All right, so I want to be a little bit more interactive. Our first day of class, we were pretty talkative, and we were introducing ourselves to one another, and we've been a little bit more quiet over these past couple of days. So this Mentee poll it's a live poll that won't require that you speak, but at least gives me an opportunity to engage with all of you all. So I need each of you to go to mentee.com, MENTI.com, if you're able to, and then enter that code that you see there, 962519. So I'll leave that on the screen for a little bit. Actually, I'm going to come to this screen. So this first question that you should see now says, what makes something alive? What makes something alive? And what this is going to do, it'll create a word cloud. So anything that comes to your mind, you can submit up to 3 words or phrases. Let me know. Don't make them sentences. Just give me one word or one phrase about what makes something alive. It'll create a word cloud, and you'll start to see as people submit their answers. I'll type it into the chat as well, just to make it a little bit easier for you all.
Mr. Rudd, do you want us to answer all 3 of the boxes or just one box?
You don't have to do all 3.
All right.
I would appreciate if you could do at least 2 though, just to make the word cloud a little bit bigger since there aren't that many of us.
Okay.
Oi. I'm not sure what oi is. Okay, so we're starting to get we've got 2 people who've answered so far. We're starting to get some, definitely some important aspects of life. Oops, I'm sorry. I don't know what happened. So let's take 30 more seconds. We've got 7 of I think there are 10 of us on the call now, 11 of us. Sorry, your computer is slow, Jalen. I definitely know that life. That's why I have to come to school, because if I stay at home, my internet is going to be shaky. I'm not sure what thoughts are, but someone will have to explain. I mean, I know what they are, but I don't know how it relates to this. Okay. Does anything jump out at someone? Would someone like to speak to anything that they see on the screen? Someone, anyone, please. Let's see. Melissa, I don't think I've heard from you in a couple of days. Are you able to unmute and tell us, just give us a general observation about what you're seeing on the screen?
Every living creature is made up of cells, and like it evolves into something bigger as days or years or months go by.
Okay, excellent. Yeah, definitely. I want to focus on that. The first thing that you said, every living creature is made up of cells. That is true. Some of them are just a single cell, but everything is made up of cells. That's very true. Anybody else want to go ahead and share? I will call on someone else. But I appreciate you, Melissa, for sharing. That was spot on. Dante, I don't know if we've heard from you. Are you able to unmute and share something?
I just see a lot of words crumbling together.
Do you agree or do you disagree? Do you see any words that make you feel like that doesn't make something alive?
I see oi.
Yeah, I don't know what oi was. I think that was maybe a typo. Okay, let me ask you this. Do you have to not, and this isn't necessarily directed at Dante, but Dante, you can also answer. Does something have to be able to think to be alive?
I don't know that.
Yes and no, I think.
It depends on how you say what you mean by alive.
Who said yes and no? Sorry, I wasn't looking at the camera.
Me.
Okay, Kiki, what do you like? Give me both sides. What would yes be and what would no be? I'm sorry to put you on the spot.
I think plants don't think, but they also breathe and grow and they're living. And then humans think. And so I think that's a yes and a no question.
Okay, so, and again, this isn't directly, or this doesn't have to be answered by Kiki, but what inside of our human bodies allows us to think?
Our brain?
Our brain. So does every living thing have a brain?
Nope.
No.
No. Okay, so maybe what we're saying is that you don't necessarily have to think in order to be alive. Feelings, I think that kind of is a similar thing. You don't necessarily have to feel to be alive. Can anybody think of a living thing that does not breathe though? Because that's the biggest word, which means that it was submitted more than once. Is there anything that's alive?
What do you mean by breathe?
Okay, that's a crucial question. What is breathing? What does it mean to breathe?
Like having lungs, right? Like an organ that breathes, right?
Taking
What you
air?
mean?
Okay, now I like Kiki. I think that was Kiki's voice. Breathing just means to take in air, right? You don't necessarily, I know what you're getting at, Adrian. You're talking about our human anatomy. We have lungs that allow us to do that. But as long as you're able to take in air, and then you also have to, we'll talk more about this actually today, but you also have to be able to get rid of a specific type of air as well. And that's what breathing is. So breathing is one that we should think more about. Breathing is definitely one we should probably keep. I do like cells, and I know Melissa spoke about that. I'm not sure who said it, but thank you for having cells on there. All living things are made of cells, so that's one that we can keep. Evolution is an interesting one too. But we'll talk more about greed. Is like a philosophical. Does whoever put greed? I'd like to hear you talk more about that. What do we mean by that? It's like real. That's out there.
You already know, my boy. It had to be me.
That was you. What do
Yeah.
you mean, Angel? What do you mean?
I put greed in thought. Well, like I didn't know what you meant by alive, because well, there's like two definitions of being alive. Alive, yeah, you could like breathe, eat, sleep, and like all that. But that's just like you're just gonna be like pretty much a plain wall. But to like feel alive, like alive, you're gonna need your own thought. Your like greed. You're gonna like want stuff to make your own decisions. You feel me?
Okay. So you're coming from a very human perspective.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Well, I appreciate that. You're our class philosopher. Grow is a good one too. Now I see someone's answered this one. Our next question that I want you guys to think through. What's the difference between abiotic and biotic? And whoever answered that the first time is 100% correct. So let's see if we can build off of that. Abiotic is non-living and biotic is living. So maybe provide an example of both or just think through that some more. Ooh, let's see. there've been more answers. Good. Okay, abiotic would be a rock, biotic would be a bird, a pen is abiotic, a dog is biotic. Okay. Trees, fox, snow, tree. Ooh, snow is an interesting one. Abiotic or non-living, chemical and physical, and biotic is living thing from the ecosystem. So let me see. What do you guys think about this? True or false? All living things are made up of non-living things. All biotic things are made up of abiotic things. Ooh, wow. Okay, somebody just put a good response to that at the bottom. It says biotic factors rely on abiotic. Let's see if it scrolls back up. Abiotic factors like water to live. Wow. Who said that?
Yeah.
Excellent, excellent, Alicia. That's very, very true, and we're going to talk more about that today. But things that are living do rely on things that are not living to survive, and water is a great example of that. But we can also think about the chemicals inside of our bodies. Our blood is constantly carrying sodium and potassium and magnesium and zinc in order to provide us with the electrolytes that we need, that our hearts need to continue beating. And those certainly are not considered living. So yes, we do absolutely rely on non-living things to keep us alive. And that's all formal. I'm saying us, but what I mean is not just humans, all living things. Excellent. All right, so let's come back over here. Is this the, okay. I'll go to these slides. Okay. So here's where you should start taking notes. So this is the acronym STERNGRR. Now there are many ways to pronounce it. I think we'll all understand each other when we say it. So I've heard STERNGRR, 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 whatever you, I think STERNGRR may not be correct, but whatever makes you feel good. Would someone like to read what's on the screen for us too?
What is STERNGRR? The 8 life process that all living organisms have in common. All organisms do these things, but some have unique ways of doing so.
Thank you. Okay. So that's important. So all organisms do rely on these 8 processes, but we have to prevent ourselves from thinking only through the lens of what humans do, because there are so many different forms of life on our planet, and more than likely on other planets, but that's a conversation for another day. But there's so many different ways of accomplishing these processes, but we often just see things through the lens of how our bodies do them. So we've got to kind of separate ourselves from that in order to understand what STERNGRR is. I'm going to move on in 3, 2, 1. Am I recording? Yeah, I'm recording. Okay, cool. So the S in STERNGRR, it stands for synthesis. Synthesis. So you've heard of, maybe you've heard the word synthesize, maybe you've heard the word synthesis. But synthesis, to synthesize something just means to build, to make it larger. So what we're talking about here is taking small molecules, joining them in some way to make a larger molecule. And this is going to be something that we come back to many, many times throughout the semester. This is an absolutely crucial process. An example of which is taking amino acids to form larger proteins. So amino acids are what we call the building blocks for proteins. That's going to be our first unit. That's like our first unit summarized. The simple analogy would just be sticking Legos together. Or puzzle pieces, however you want to think of it. Any questions or thoughts about this?
No.
Thank you. Okay. The T in STERNGRR stands for transport. Transport. You all know what the word transport means, so I won't bloviate too much on that. But transport means to move materials throughout the organism's body. Okay, so in human bodies and in the bodies of both mammals and reptiles and birds and amphibians, we have blood and insects. So we need to be able to carry blood from one part of our body to other parts of our body. And this is kind of what we were getting at when we talked about, breathing and gas exchange, right? So we've got to take oxygen in, and we're going to talk about that in a couple of slides, but we've got to take oxygen in and we've got to get rid of CO2. Does anybody know what CO2 is? Looking at you, Angel, you took chemistry.
Carbon dioxide.
Yes, thank you. Okay, let me type it. Should probably. CO2 is carbon dioxide. So the analogy is that you've seen trucks on the highway transporting packages around the country for delivery. It's very similar to what our bodies and what the bodies of all living organisms need to be able to do. What else? Someone give me an example of what else we would need to transport throughout our bodies.
Energy.
Okay, and energy comes in the form of what? Where do we get our energy?
Nutrients, right?
Okay, nutrients, yeah. Okay, food, we've got to be able to transport food. Anything else?
Sugar?
Sugar. Energy really comes primarily in the form of sugar. So we'll talk more about that in our first unit, but I think that was Alicia, so thank you for sharing that. Sugar is a huge one. What else?
Blood.
Blood, and the blood carries, what is blood primarily? It's like 70% what?
Water.
Yeah, blood is about 70% water. So we've got to be able to transport water. And of course, our human body is made up of about 70% water. So water is also one of the biggest things that we rely on to live, but it also needs to be transported. What about plants? Do they need to transport anything different, or is it all the same stuff? Any thoughts on that? Okay, maybe that's something we need to continue to think about. What are plants transporting? Okay, the E in STERNGRR stands for excretion. the removal of waste products. So the example is obviously when most living organisms, most animals have to relieve themselves. And yes, I won't say more than that. But what are we actually getting rid of when we poop or when we urinate?
Unneeded substances.
Good. Yeah. So anything that is unneeded. What else? Can we be more specific? What do we take in that we don't need?
CO2.
CO2, yeah. Carbon dioxide is a big one. And we're not just taking in carbon dioxide, but we are producing it inside of our bodies. And carbon dioxide is actually poisonous to us, which is why we have to get rid of it. Carbon dioxide can make our blood acidic. What else are we trying to get rid of? Any other thoughts? Okay. I'll share with you lipids, which are something that we'll talk about in our first unit, but they're fats. So most of our body and most of our digestive system cannot process fats. So most of what you're actually pooping out is that fat. To be graphic, I'm sorry. Okay, but we'll come back to that topic. The first R, and really it doesn't matter which order you go in with the R's, but we have 3 R's in STERNGRR. The first one that we'll talk about is regulation. Regulation just means maintaining an internal balance. Tomorrow, we're going to talk about prefixes and suffixes and how you can break down words. But we've got a big word here. Can anybody help me better understand what this might mean if I break it down?
I recognize the word. I just forgot.
Okay, let's see.
Oh, isn't it the same? Homo, it stands for homeo. It's the same, right?
Okay. Now I do like how you're thinking. Yes, homo means same, but we also have another type of homo that has a capital H, as in Homo sapiens. What is a Homo sapien?
Human.
A human, yeah.
Yeah, that's a.
Isn't it like some sort of like ape, but like really like I don't know. I'm pretty sure it's like some sort of. I'm not sure.
Wasn't it the early humans?
Yeah, the early humans.
Okay, yeah. So, well, there are different types of. Now, you guys are really getting ahead, and that's good. I like that we have some creative thinkers in here, some deep thinkers. But yeah, let's say about 100,000 years ago, there were different species of humans on the Earth. Today, the only remaining species is Homo sapiens, which is what we are. But many thousands of years ago, there were also Neanderthals. There were also Denisovans. There were these different species of humans, but those species died out, and we were the only remaining species. But homo in this case means human, means man. And what about stasis? I'll give you a hint. It's also related to the word stagnant and also related to the word static. What do those words mean? If I'm stagnant, what am I doing? Or what am I not doing?
Is it like lack of motion?
Yeah, lack of motion. I'm not moving. So status means unchanging. It's gonna be hard for you to write with my finger. So this is what we want to get in the habit of being able to do, breaking down words. So if I break that down, I've got unchanging human. So we're talking about maintaining a balance. We don't want our bodies to change too much. Specifically, give me an example of something that I don't want to fluctuate too much. I don't want it to be too high. I don't want it to be too low.
Heart rate.
Heart rate, okay. So yeah, I don't want my heart rate to be too high. I don't want my heart rate to be too low. What else?
Blood pressure.
Blood pressure.
Body temperature.
Definitely, that's a big one. Temperature.
Weight.
And say internal temperature. Yeah, weight is an important one, but of course our bodies are capable of fluctuating pretty far in one direction, but I will put weight. You don't want to be too small. You also don't want to be too big. Anything else? What about when maybe some of you all have seen family members or people who have to prick their fingers? What are they measuring when they prick their fingers?
Blood
Their
sugar.
blood pressure.
Blood sugar. They're measuring their blood sugar.
I meant sugar, my bad.
Yeah. So we have
What
to.
about cholesterol?
Yeah, cholesterol is another one as well. Cholesterol. Yeah, we have to be able to maintain all of these things. And there's another big one. I'll give you a hint. The pH scale. What are we measuring with the pH scale?
Acidic level?
Yes, excellent. So we don't want our bodies to be too acidic. And of course, if I have, this is what I meant when I said carbon dioxide can be poisonous to animals. If our blood carries too much carbon dioxide, it begins to become more acidic, which can begin to degrade the walls of our arteries. So that's definitely not a good thing. So we have to be able to maintain, and we have all these different processes inside of our bodies that allow us to maintain these levels. For example, with temperature, I'm not sure, I think it was Joseph or Adrian, someone said temperature. The way that we can maintain our internal temperature is by sweating and shivering. If you get too hot, your body literally starts to sweat. You start to lose water. And the water itself is not exactly what's cooling you down, but it's the fact that water begins to evaporate off of your body that cools you down. That's a little bit of chemistry and physics. But if you get too cold, you literally start to shiver. And the reason you start to shiver is that by shaking, your muscles are producing heat. And so it, in theory, would warm you up. Now, of course, if you're standing outside 0 degrees and you're stark naked, then shivering is not going to do too much for you. And of course, if you're in the middle of an Arizona desert and it's 120 degrees and you are wearing a full body sweatsuit, sweating is not going to do too much for you. So there's only so much that our bodies can do, but we do have these processes that allow us to, as it says, adjust the thermostat a little bit internally. Okay, so I'm glad we already have some thoughts about what regulation is. So that was good. Then the N in STERNGRR stands for nutrition. So this one's pretty self-explanatory. You all know what nutrition is. But we need to be able to take in the compounds that we need to create energy. And I think Alicia said it earlier. Sugar is a big one, but it's not the only one. But your body is, even if you sit all day and you literally don't move, you're just in a meditative state, or maybe hopefully not a vegetative state, but you're just meditating. You're not moving the entire day. You still need energy. Why? Why does your body always need energy?
To move, to keep going.
Okay, so if I'm, yes, okay, good. That's what I was getting at. So if I'm not actually moving, if I'm not moving my arms and my legs, there are still things inside of me that are moving. My heart still needs to beat. My digestive system still needs to be able to move my breakfast down through my intestines. Whenever I have a thought, that thought is actually the movement of neurons that are sending chemical and electrical signals throughout my body. So that's movement too. So we need energy all throughout the day. And you're burning thousands of calories, even if you don't do anything all day. And so you need to be able to replace those calories. Okay. Then the G stands for growth and development. So most forms of life, all forms of life, well, no, let's say most forms of life are going to, now this is, I'm glad I just kind of ran into that. I'm glad I just made that mistake. But most forms, not all forms, need to go through some amount of growth and development. But there are some forms of life that don't grow and they don't really change throughout the course of their lifespan. For example, a bacterium. Bacteria are single-celled organisms. So it's just one cell that makes up the entire organism. So there's really no point in them wasting energy to grow. What they will spend their energy doing is reproducing. So instead of just growing, I could just split myself into two and make another one. So that's a little bit different. But for animals and for plants, we do often have the goal of growth and developing into a better form. All right, so an interesting fact, human babies are born with 100 more bones than adults have. Can anybody think of a reason why that is? Why do babies have so many more? What happens to those bones? Because it's not like they just lose them through their skin or they just throw them up or anything like that. What happens to them?
They like merge.
Yes, I think I heard 3 different people say it. They fuse, they merge, they combine. Excellent. So if you actually, some of you I know have younger siblings. When your younger siblings were first born, did you notice anything about their heads?
They had like a hole in their head.
It's soft.
Yes, they have these soft spots, like they feel like holes in their heads. And that's because their skull literally has not fused together yet. So when babies are born, they have what are called fontanelles. And that just means that the skull is in, I think it's 5 different plates. So, and they haven't fused together yet. Can anybody think of a reason why that is?
What?
So childbirth is easier.
Exactly, yeah. So it makes childbirth easier, right? So it's a very small canal that babies have to come out of. And so if they were very rigid when doing that, it would be very dangerous for both them and the mother. So they need to be able to be as flexible as possible. And so they have all these, they have all these bones that technically are, they're not different bones. They're just bones that have not yet fused together. And that just gives them a little bit more flexibility. So if you ever actually see a live birth, then you'll see that the baby's head typically comes out in like a very oblong shape. It's not rounded. It comes out like almost like a rectangle. So it's kind of funny to see. And that's not abnormal. That doesn't mean anything's wrong with the baby. That just makes childbirth a little bit safer for both the baby and the mother. Another interesting thing, we're growing from the moment of conception. Animals are growing from the moment of conception. So as soon as the sperm meets the egg and they create what's called a zygote, which we'll talk about more later in the course, that zygote begins to grow and it begins to divide into many different types of cells. And so it actually is happening so quickly that in those first 9 months that the baby is developing gestationally, so inside of the mother, if we were to continue to grow at that same rate over the course of 80 years, which is about the typical lifespan of an American, then by the time we hit 80 years, we'd be the size of the sun. So that tells you how quickly the baby is developing inside of the mother, because obviously the sun is gigantic. All right. Then our second R in STERNGRR stands for respiration. So somebody said that in order to be considered living, you have to be able to breathe. And this is what we really mean when we say breathe. We're not necessarily talking about lungs. We're talking about respiration, which just means you're taking in oxygen and you're getting rid of carbon dioxide. Why is that so important when we just think about the overall atmosphere, the overall ecosystem? Where does the oxygen come from? And where does the carbon dioxide go?
The oxygen comes from like trees, and then the carbon dioxide goes to the trees so they can turn to oxygen.
Excellent. Yeah, that's exactly what happens. Thank you, Joseph. So the oxygen is coming from the plants. Everything green that you see outside is constantly producing oxygen. And so actually plants have been around longer than animals were, because Before there were animals, there was no oxygen in our atmosphere. And so, and this is something that we'll talk about basically at the end of the course. But before there was any oxygen in our atmosphere, the plants existed and they produced all of that oxygen, which made it possible for animals and cells to start to, for animals to start to evolve. And then, of course, when we breathe, when we go through this process of respiration, we get rid of the carbon dioxide, and that's good for the plants because that's what they need. However, when we start to think about climate change, there just simply are not enough what we call carbon sinks, and I'll write it here. Sorry, I'm writing with my fingers, so my handwriting is very sloppy. There just simply aren't enough carbon sinks in the world to take in all the carbon dioxide that we're producing with our cars, with our factories, with our concrete, with the cows that we use for dairy and for beef. Those cows are producing a lot of carbon literally through their farts. And so, hundreds of years ago, there were a lot of trees left, the Amazon rainforest, and there are forests in Russia that are gigantic, forests in Alaska. And so they were able to take in all of that carbon that was being produced. And then also we have the oceans, which are huge carbon sinks as well. They were taking in carbon also. But now we just simply produce too much. And so that carbon is remaining in our atmosphere way longer than it should, and it's damaging the ozone. And so that's how we get to global warming. That's a topic we'll talk a lot more about as well. So as you can see, this STERNGRR is related to what we'll be doing throughout the year. I think I'm over my time. Yes, I'm way over my time. Okay, I'm going to try to wrap up. There's only one more. And then the last one is reproduction. And this is important because there are two types of reproduction. And different living things have different ways of accomplishing reproduction. So there's what's called asexual reproduction. And asexual reproduction is just when one organism is able to reproduce by itself. And sexual reproduction is when you need two organisms to make one offspring or to make an offspring. There are benefits to both, and we're going to talk more about that about halfway through the course. Can anybody think of a benefit to asexual reproduction? Meaning just one organism? What would be a benefit of asexual reproduction?
You don't have to try looking for a partner.
Exactly, yeah. There's no need for you to look for a partner. You can do it yourself. And that alone saves a lot of energy. The amount of energy that most organisms expend in not only looking for a partner, but then actually doing the act is pretty substantial. So if I can just do it myself, I save a lot of energy. What would be a benefit of sexual reproduction? I'll give you a hint. I hear somebody was about to say something. Okay, I'll give you a hint. So let's say that, and I'll just think about humans as our example. But let's just say that every human was exactly alike, genetically exactly alike. What would be the problem with that?
No evolution.
We wouldn't be able to undergo evolution. So if we were all exactly alike, and let's say that we had absolutely no protections against malaria or against the coronavirus, then it would be able to come through and wipe out the entire population. Okay, so genetic variation and genetic diversity is extremely important for the survival of a species. You want to be able to have some individuals that are able to eat this and some that can eat that. And you want to be able to have some individuals that are protected against that virus and some that are protected against that virus. That way, if in the worst case scenario, you lose a food source, or you lose a habitat, or there is a pathogen, you are able to survive and continue to reproduce. So genetic diversity is an extremely beneficial factor. All right, let's see, I think that's it. Okay. So we won't do those right now. I'm going to stop sharing this. I'll go back over here. Nope, not there. I appreciate everybody being so engaged today as I try to set this up. Okay, so let's play Kahoot. Not signed in, that's okay. Oops.
Mr. Ripper, right?
What'd you say?
The Mentimeter.
What about it?
Do we still need to be in it, or could we just
No,
close
you can close that. Okay. Let's see. Okay.
My mistake, I actually typed in Kahoot in the tab.
What happened?
I typed in Kahoot in the tab that my meet was in. So
oh, it's okay. Let's see. Okay, am I good to start? I think that's everybody. I might be missing one person. Let's go ahead. Okay, the movement of material from one place to another. I'll turn the music back on a little bit. Excellent. Transport. To make something comprised of smaller components. Okay, synthesis. That one is a little tricky. Hopefully you all took notes, so you can just have your notes open while you play this. But synthesis means to take something small and combine it to make something bigger. This should be easy. Removal of waste. Excellent. To increase in size or number. I feel like there could be two answers here, but we'll see. That one I feel like was unfair, so I apologize for that because I would have said reproduction based on the picture that they showed. But let's see. Good. Most of you got it right. Excellent. The act of making a new organism. Okay, small change in the leaderboard. Okay, this is tough. So something changes, but we don't want to change internally. Good. Oh. Which of the following is the independent variable? So this is what we talked about yesterday. This is tricky as well. Okay, yeah, that one was hard. And I didn't explicitly say it yesterday, so I will take the blame for that, but I'll show the media. So the independent variable, and this is something you might want to write down. The independent variable goes on the x-axis, so it's on the horizontal axis down here. The dependent variable typically goes on the y-axis, on the vertical axis. Okay, so independent, and typically the independent variable will be time. That's also a big hint. So in this case, year, that's a version, or that's a unit of time. So year is the independent variable. Any questions about that? Sorry, I didn't say it.
No.
Thank you, Kiki. Yep, y-axis. It kind of tricks you because population is in both places, but population of Hungary is just the name of the overall graph. For those who don't know, oh, well, it says to cool itself off, yeah. Okay, good. So I think that was also a tricky one because they are breathing. They're doing the process of respiration. But really what respiration is about, it's about energy. So when a dog is trying to cool itself off, I think that was the hint. It's trying to maintain its internal temperature. So that's regulation. Excellent. Okay. This will be interesting. Yeah, that was a good one. So if you remember, I made the mistake of saying all organisms need to grow, which is not necessarily true. So growth is not something that all organisms do. So this answer is actually false. Not all organisms need to do all 8 processes to survive. And of course, not everybody reproduces, right? Some humans can survive, 80, 90 years without ever having children. Yeah, I don't like that question. Again, I would have said reproduction, so I get the 4 of you who did. Okay, I'm gonna have a talk with Miss Baxley about this Kahoot because I don't like these answers. So, congratulations to those who won. Let's see. Castro 3rd place, Alicia 2nd, so Adrian 1st. Oh, Ayana, good. Okay, cool. So, like I said, I would disagree with some of the answers, but hopefully that was fun. Okay, we'll stop there. I want to show you a couple things because we literally only have a couple minutes, right? Yeah. So share my screen one more time. So I took up the entire class period today. I will apologize for that, but hopefully it was fun and educational. But we do have 2 things here, really 3. The exit ticket is not as important, but this is just a very brief, like 7-question quiz that you all should be able to knock out the park on STERNGRR. Pretty easy. You can probably do it in 5 minutes. And then this is like a survey that I want you all to take, which will just better help me understand how I can support you this year, both academically and personally. So when you have some time, that one will probably take about 15 minutes. If you actually, put some effort into it. But when you have some time, please try to knock that out. But all of these, everything that we've been assigned so far this week is due on Friday. So the due date is set to 11:59 on Friday. So you have until then to knock it out. Questions about anything?
I still don't see your class in my Canvas.
Okay, so I think they took you out of the class, Ayana, and Ms. Broadway just put you back in the class. So it could take 24 hours for you to get back in. So with the due dates, I will absolutely excuse that for you.
Okay.
Any other questions? If not, you all are good to go.
Adios.
Adios.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Tomorrow.